Well, hi everyone. Welcome to the New England Racing Show, Manchester, New Hampshire, Channel 23. Also on YouTube, and like us on Facebook. You'll get the show on your Facebook page every week. Well, this past week we took a tour of New England Motor Racing Supplies shop, run by Butch Valley Jr. and Sr. And we talked with their Supermodified builder, Brian Allegresso, all about building supers and how they work and everything. That's Brian getting ready to do the show. We just walked around for a few minutes, and this is where they keep Jeff Locke's immaculate, beautiful Supermodified, the ISMA one, obviously, with the wings. But Brian was building also wingless supers for Oswego. He built one for Jeff Holbrook. And
we have some chassis here that
they're a little different than the winged ones, but here's one that's pretty much a roller chassis with a dummy engine in it. And there's a couple that are a little earlier stages up on the tables.
Brian welds these, puts them all together. They have quite a bit of machinery here.
They have the machines to do pretty much everything there.
Something like this together. I'm jealous. I wish I had this in my garage. Hi. And over here, Butch can build 3-valve Bilstein shocks to whatever valving you need. He's got all the tools and a shock dyno. Quite an expensive piece of machinery. So if you need any shocks built for your car, this is a place you'd probably want to look at coming to. Here with Brian Allegresso, noted Supermodified builder, and we have a few frames here that he's building for a couple of customers, and we were checking them out. So, Brian, tell us, where do you start on one of these? How do you start building a Supermodified?
Well, you got to have a plan. And you have to have a good building bench, and you just kind of come up with some ideas, and you cut the tube in, and you put something together that you kind of raced before and have experience with, and one chassis at a time till you get good enough over 30 years that you can build them multiple cars like we're doing now.
And what kind of steel do you use for the tubing?
We use all 4130 aircraft tubing.
Welding?
We TIG weld it. You know, we use stainless steel rod. Some people use 4130 rod. Some people use mild steel rod. You know, we elect to use stainless rod. And pretty much most of the time when you build a car, it's from just years of experience racing and ideas that there's no really set plan. It's just that we built 20 or 30 cars, and the ones we like, we keep, and the ones we don't like, we ignore while we build it.
And do you want these frames to be really stiff? Is that?
Yeah, the stiffer the better, and we've learned over the years that not only are they better racing, but they're safer.
And what steps do you take to ensure the safety of the driver when you build one
Well,
of these?
back in the old days, we didn't take many steps, but as time goes on here, we kind of just put a ton of tubing around the car to make the car stiffer and also to protect the driver. In the old days, it was awful. It was awful to how they were built because everybody cared about getting 1,500 pounds. You know, now we have weight rules, so everybody's beefing them up.
Okay. Looking at the top of the cage, do you make the height of the cage different depending on the driver's height?
Yeah, for our own use, definitely. But with the ones we sell, we try and just have an average height that'll fit everybody. You know, and yeah, we've made super tall cars for 300-pound drivers, and we've made cars like locks that are 4 or 5 inches lower for 150-pound drivers.
Oh, okay.
You know, so we've made them every which way. But the ones we sell, we kind of have an average height cage.
And that'll
That takes 90% of the people.
okay. Now I see that the left front rail here is straight. We race a small block, and I noticed a lot of them, it goes in
Yeah.
to account for the engine. And what do you do? How do you work around that?
Well, just in keeping the frame stiffer, we elect to roll the engine more to keep the engine out of the frame. If you straighten the engine up, you got to cut into the frame for the head and the headers and everything else. So we elect to do it this way just to keep the frame stronger because the other frames are really weak in that area.
Oh, okay. And this is a welded-in type of belly pan?
Yeah, that's just a floorboard that you can put pedals in with multiple holes so you can adjust it for multiple drivers.
Yeah. Okay, great.
You know, that makes it easier when you're selling them.
Do they put a belly pan under that?
Yes.
Yeah. Just
Yes.
a thin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now this is set up for torsion bars in the back.
Yes. Torsion bars in the back and an independent front.
So it's an independent front suspension
Yep.
that you use?
Yep.
Is that what Ismir runs, or they
Well,
allow
no,
you to run
they
both?
run anything. They run both. Yes.
How about Oswego? Are they the same?
Oswego's straight axle only.
And they used to allow you to have a two-piece axle that you could.
Yes, you can use a split axle or a two-piece axle.
Oh, you still can?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yep, you can do that.
Well, great. Okay, so you've got this one pretty much all set up.
Yeah, that belongs to a friend of mine.
We need friends like you. And this one here, the second one, is pretty much the same thing?
Yep, that's for young Danny Bose. All three of these cars are identical, and there's one at Danny Sewell's house too that we built four at once.
Danny, oh, you're
Danny.
building for Danny Sewell?
Yeah, we built.
Didn't
one.
he get his car wrecked last year?
Yes, that
Okay.
was from here too. That car was originally from here.
Was there anything left of that?
No, it's pretty bad.
How about the engine?
I'm not sure.
Okay, well, here's an example. We have one here that's a kind of a roller.
Yeah.
And here's an example of the engine tilted.
With the head out of the frame.
Yeah, and the pipes go out the right side.
Yep.
Do you have like a firewall underneath the pipes?
Oh, yeah, it's completely sealed off underneath the pipes.
Okay.
These cars are so high that there's lots of room underneath for their feet.
And this one has
And
independent.
you can see where the pedals are in this one
Oh yeah.
on that floor. Then you can see the independent front suspension on this one.
Well, that's cool. It's still offset. It looks like the right side's a few inches longer
Yeah.
than the left side.
Yeah, it's offset a little bit.
And how do you determine how much offset to have in one of these?
We have a left side weight rule, so you know, like when we built this car had too much left side weight, so we had to adjust on it to get it out. So when we built the newer cars, we took some away by moving the frame over.
Oh, okay. I see. This one has a lot
More left side weight. Yeah,
Yeah. And what's the left side weight percentage that they allow?
68% on the left side.
I believe in our small blocks it's 64 65 or 66. Yeah.
Yeah, and like this car can't run the left side tank. It can't run off the left side tank because there'd be fuel left in it, and it'd be over 68. So you have to run the rear tank. So when we built these cars, we moved the frames over 2 inches so they can run off the left side tank.
Now, Jeff, this is Jeff Locke's car.
Yes, Jeff Locke's car.
He'll be racing at Star Saturday night.
Yes.
So what tank does he run off? Do you fill both of them?
Yeah, we fill them both up because it only holds 43 gallons. But the engine runs off the rear tank because that tank we need empty by the end of the race to make weight.
So it runs off the rear. Does that fuel go into this tank
Yes.
afterwards?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I
As
see
the
what you
race
mean.
is going on, it empties out right away. You know, that side tank will empty out right away. And that's a problem. Even though this car's pretty safe, it's only 66.5% without any fuel in it, so it's pretty safe. But scales aren't safe. That's the problem. They put them on, you know, rough ground, and the total weight always comes out right, but the left side weight is the problem.
Okay.
You know, because of just being level. The scale's just being level. So you got to be like 66.5 or 67% because you always have that one race that the scales are wrong.
Do they give you an allowance? In other words,
A little bit, but not enough.
not enough.
Not
right?
enough for the way they weigh them.
Okay. Well, explain to us the suspension on this car is torsion bar.
Right.
I'm looking at that panhard bar. You have 2 tie rods for the
Yeah.
panhard bar. Why is that?
Because it's a friend of mine. A friend of mine kind of developed that years ago and sent me a picture of it. And when we built these cars, we couldn't get the panhard bar to the other side of the rear end. So that's kind of like an instant center bar. It projects 2 lines, and when they meet on the other side of the rear end.
Oh, okay. The bars go all the way across?
They go to here, but if you were to project
I
those
see,
2
I see.
lines,
Yep.
it makes it longer.
Okay.
You know, and
Now, do they allow any cockpit adjustments in these ISMA Supers?
a couple here or there, you know, like mostly brake adjusters. They allow brake adjusters, and I'm sure there's a lot of adjusters that shouldn't be in them that are, you know.
Oh, you mean brake bias, front and rear?
Yes.
Okay.
There's stuff like that they allow. They're pretty good at that stuff.
Because I know in NEMA, we run a NEMA light, and they allow you one adjustment,
One weight jacker.
either a weight jacker, or we have also a rebound adjuster on our left rear
Yeah.
shock.
Yeah, they don't allow that on these.
No.
No.
Do they allow a weight adjuster? or
No.
Well, you don't really have springs to...
Well, a lot of
oh,
people
you can
do,
have it on the
though.
torsion bar.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
A lot of people can figure out a way to do it.
yeah. So, but they don't allow that, just a brake adjustment?
Just the brake adjustment.
Okay.
That's about all you can do.
So this car, when did you build this car, Brian?
Probably 5 years ago now.
Does Jeff keep it in pretty good shape? I mean, he hasn't wrecked it yet?
I keep it in pretty good shape.
You do.
I try to anyways.
It's just a beautiful car. Now, the front suspension is...
It's independent too.
And that's coil-over shocks?
Yep. It's a little different because of this car being an earlier model.
Right, it's got longer A-arms on the right side?
Right. It's a little tiny bit different. But it's pretty much the same. Other than that.
Now, I noticed Russ Wood's car. It's not here today, but he sold it to Howie Lane, or
Yes.
they sold it to Howie Lane.
Yes.
That one has, what do they call it on the rear, cantilever
Yes.
springs?
Yes.
And how do those work?
Well, basically, it's a way to keep the spring base long like a torsion bar with a coil spring.
Okay.
Sometimes you have trouble with them because they're not 1-to-1 ratio, so that makes it a little tougher to manage than a torsion bar. But then on the other hand, a torsion bar has trouble being managed because they go bad. So, there's problems with any of them, you know. I don't think there's much difference between them, though.
A torsion bar, what can wreck a torsion bar? If you hop somebody's wheel and then the car
Yeah.
comes back down
Yeah,
and,
rough track.
and jolts?
Yeah, if you don't have the car just right, you know, there's a lot of problems that you can have with torsion bars.
Now, what do you like to do with torsion bars? Like have two sets if you're running during the year and keep swapping them, or?
Yeah, what I do is I wait. When we get back from the races, we measure the heights of the frame, and if they stay somewhat close to the same, we keep them. And we usually run them about 4 races, but I think a lot of times people change torsion bars because they're inexpensive, and you know you think that they might be bad, so you get rid of them. You know, but we only change the left rim maybe once a year, or after a bad race. You know, a real bad race.
Because we have 2 sets and we just swap them every couple of races.
That's what a lot of people do.
That way it seems like the first set doesn't go down all the way,
Yeah.
get used up.
Yeah.
And how do you know if your torsion bars, how does a driver know if they're going besides the ride height?
If it's a left rear bar and the car gets looser as time goes on, you know that something's happening. But most of the time, I'll be honest with you, most of the time I don't think they're even bad. You know, we just change them for safety's sake.
Oh, okay. Preventive maintenance.
Yeah.
Well, that's
because
the way it
they're
should
not
be.
that expensive, you know?
Right. So you say this holds 43 gallons total?
Yeah.
And how long, like at Star, you're doing how many laps? 150?
150, and that's about, it'll use every ounce of that for 150 laps of start,
Do they-
depending on the cautions.
Right. Do they make an adjustment if there's so many cautions that they have a
Oh
refueling?
yeah, they'll stop the race. They stopped it 3 times one year.
I remember in the old days they would stop at halfway
Yeah.
on the track and everyone would go
Yeah,
out and refuel.
Yeah, they've done it, but that was 200 laps back then.
Right, it was 150 back in the 70s
Oh,
and early 80s.
Yeah, early.
The old days.
The early days, they were 200. The early-
Okay.
Oh no, it was 150.
150,
It was
right.
75 and 75.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah.
My memory's not that bad.
No, it was. You're right. You're absolutely right. But we could change tires and everything.
Yeah.
And
Right on the track?
Right on the track. Yeah.
Yeah. I think what always intrigued me was we'd see the guys come out and refill the methanol and they'd have a cigarette in their mouth. Could never figure that one out. Well, Jeff lets us use his in-car camera quite a bit, which is
Well,
really
that's
exciting.
good. That's really good.
At the
I
ISMA
noticed
car.
it
and-
isn't on there. He must have taken it off. Maybe he's charging it up or something.
Yeah, and the Oswego car he does too.
Yeah.
Now, what would be the difference between building a car for ISMA winged and a car for Oswego non-winged for you?
Yeah. There's quite a difference.
Do you have a difference in offset
Yeah, you run less offset.
for Oswego?
Yeah, because you don't have enough downforce.
Okay.
You know, and you build the car. I don't know.
Because you built one for Jeff a couple of
Holbrook.
years ago?
Holbrook.
Oh,
Yeah.
Holbrook, yeah.
Yeah, Jeff Holbrook. There's a lot more to it, but the trouble with Oswego right now is they're so up and down on their rules that you don't know what to build right now.
Well, I see a picture of Joey Payne's car,
Yeah.
and from the head-on shot, all you can see of the engine is the top of the injectors
Yeah.
coming out. It's like the whole thing's closed in.
Yeah, they've just kind of lost the rule book right now, and there's a lot of people complaining. So I wouldn't build a car for Oswego right now because you just don't know what's going to happen.
Oh, okay.
You know, with the rules. So
And it was pretty neat to see Jimmy Champine's 8-ball
yeah,
car
that was really cool.
doing the pace, and I remember that car so well,
Yeah.
and people
And,
were...
and Kempton Dates driving it.
Was that who was driving it?
Yeah, and he looked really good. He's been coming to the races a lot out there.
Yep.
I've been going every week, and he's been coming a lot.
Well, at Waterford, we got a chance to interview Warren Conium Sr.,
Yes.
which
Yeah,
was pretty
he-
cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Here's his son driving. We didn't want to bother with him. We wanted to talk to the legend
Yeah.
because he drove Jimmy's rear engine car.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that was real interesting. He told us about that. Well, it doesn't seem like they have much of a tail. The wing sort of replaces a tail.
Yeah.
We,
Yeah, some people don't run tail wings, some people do.
I'm really amazed at looking at Mark Samet's car. It looks like it's an old. It
Yeah.
looks old and it looks basic with
Yeah.
coils over on the back and no wing on the back, and
Yeah.
it almost looks like our old small block Super. Yet he goes out and he wins.
Runs good. He runs good, yeah.
And he says, well, they're building a new car
Yes.
that they've been working on for 3 years. So I told him, sell us this one. He laughed. But I guess what's interesting about the Supers is that there's so many different designs. It's not like you get a modified, you have 3 different chassis, everything looks the same.
Right.
These are all different.
Yeah.
And it's just very interesting. Also, I noticed the Oswego cars, they have all these aerodynamic side panels and stuff. And how did that develop?
I don't know. If they were smart, they wouldn't, because it's a lot of effort and time to do that sheet metal work. And at Oswego, without a wing, you just touch the wall and it's all gone.
Oh,
You know, so, they talk about changing stuff, but I don't know, they have a different look to them, which is pretty cool. I think they're pretty cool. And I'll tell you, they're going fast.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
going faster than they've ever gone before.
I believe Joey Payne did a 15.9
something.
or 8.
Yeah, low 8.
And what were they, like 30 years, when Jimmy Champagne ran, they were in the 17s, I believe.
Yeah.
Some of that must be tires, though.
Some of it's tires, some of it's aerodynamic. Most of it's aerodynamics, I'd say.
And it used to be that you could they'd race at Oswego, and we would take our wings off from Star and go out there, and then they would take their wings, put their wings on, and do a few shock
Yeah.
adjustments, and they'd run with us. But
Well, that's the problem, is that they're trying to get it back like that.
oh,
And they're almost ready to throw the rule book out and change a bunch of stuff to make it so this car can go to Oswego Plastic Weekend, bolt on a wing, and race. So
Yep.
that's what's set into their minds at Oswego, which probably is not a good thing, because the 30 people that are racing there aren't going to be happy.
right.
when they do
Once
it.
you already have it, you don't want to give it
They're
up.
not going to be happy. So, but that's their mindset, is they want to have a Plastic Weekend with 60 cars there.
Well, I went there in 1983, and there were 63 Supers trying
Right.
to qualify.
Right, and that's what their goal is, to do that again.
How many were there this last weekend?
41? I think it was 41.
Oh, okay.
Which isn't bad.
No.
It isn't bad.
Now, getting to the engine, how big are these engines?
We're allowed to go to 467.
And the horsepower?
Well, dynos are all different. You have some engine builders that, they're 825 horse, and you got other engine builders, they're 925 horse. But I would say on an average, they're close to 900 horse. Somewhere, if you averaged all of them out.
And the torque is up there too?
Yeah, 750 foot-pounds of torque,
Now, when you're racing, is it the torque you look for coming off the corners, or is it the horsepower that's important?
I like torque, but there's a lot of people that like horsepower. Because horsepower kind of helps you at the end of the straightaway.
Right.
And so a lot of people like horsepower.
And price-wise, an engine?
A new engine today, you could probably range from 40,000 to 60,000, depending on. They're all good parts, but there's some extremely good parts. So
Any titanium?
we're not allowed titanium except for the valves.
Okay.
And valve retainers and valve keepers. Delta
Dowker?
Racing's in. Delta
Char-
Racing.
Charlotte, Michigan.
Yes.
Who
His
el-
father owned The cars that Nolan Johncock drove at Oswego back in the 60s and 70s.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, his father. Now it's his two sons, and they've all been in the engine business for 60 years. You know, father and son, and I went to them because they're racers, and I like that end of it.
Now, R&R was around here.
Yeah, R&R was Ricky Moore was my best friend.
He passed away.
He passed away 3 years ago this Thompson.
He had a good reputation, I understand.
And I went to Butch Delker because of his father is. Everybody talks about the titanium roadster that was at Oswego years ago, and there's a lot of history there, and that was the Delker family. Max Delker owned it.
Okay.
You know, and that's why I went to them, and I'll tell you, we've been having no problems.
Great. How long can you run the engine before you have to refresh it?
This one has most of the whole season on it, so you can usually get a whole season. But we only race 14 races, so it isn't like a long season.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
So, but it's we can race a whole season and then safely.
Now getting to the wings here, I see it has a front nose wing,
Yes.
the top wing, and one on the back that kind of replaces the tail section.
Yes.
The old days, the wings didn't even move. Now they go up and down
Yeah.
based on the pressure in your
Yes.
tubes,
Yeah.
air cylinders. How did the wings get from where they were then to where they are now with the big side pods and the two-piece
Yeah.
top?
Well, back in the old days, people just tried them as like a hunch, and they picked up speed, and there was old timers. They won a lot of races back in the old days, and there was a lot of people that were in denial and said, "We don't need that. We don't need that."
Yeah.
But here we are with wings.
Did anyone over the years do wind tunnel tests on these to develop this, or it's just trial
Just
and error?
recently.
Recently?
Just recently, they started in our division, and we were talking, myself and Doc, we were talking about starting a program to do it now, because sooner or later, the pricing on it's come way down, so.
On a wind tunnel?
Hell yeah.
Yeah. To rent one, you mean?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's come way down.
And how about the front wing? How has that developed?
Well,
Because I
that's
look at
another thing too, is over the years, they've been started off small and they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and.
you look at Champagne's old car, and the nose was the front wing.
Right.
Now we have a pointed nose
Yep.
instead of a wide one.
And when I switched over from a nose to a wing, I know that my drivers didn't believe that it would make a difference. But you go to a couple of races and throw it on and off, and they get to like it pretty quick.
Can this nose wing the angle be adjusted?
Yes.
Is that something you ever do during?
No, not too often. The non-wing cars adjust it constantly because they don't have a wing to adjust.
Right.
So they adjust it constantly.
And how about the back one? Do you adjust that?
No, we just adjust the one in the middle.
All right.
We
Cool.
move it up, down, sideways, whatever it needs.
All right, Brian. Well, geez, thanks for all this information. It's been very helpful.
Okay.
I think that people that follow Supermodifieds actually get an insight here from one of the builders. And we have Doc Hathaway over there on the computer. He doesn't want to be disturbed, I can tell. And
Yeah,
but
he's definitely the brains.
yeah, he's the brain. And right there to the left of him is a cart that Butch Valley Jr.'s son drives. And we'll be back here. We're going to talk to Butch. He's not here today, but we're going to talk to Butch and do another show on his Scone car, which is right over here. Sprint Cars of New England. Okay, well, we'll have a future show from there about the sprint car. I want to run down Lee Speedway's track championship night this past Friday. A track champions in the Ironman 4-cylinder was Jesse Tellier, the 17 car.
Ironman 6-cylinder, the 47 of Wayne Osborne. Hobby stock champ, 79, Pat Tangway, 2 years in a row. Late model sportsman, 63 of Nick Magnotti. And Supermodifieds, the number 11 of Jake Sturgis. The Star Classic ISMA Supermodified winner was Lou Ciccone. Second was John McKennedy. Third was Russ Wood. And Dave McGuire does the videos at Star Speedway, and I think he'll have that up shortly. So if you go on YouTube, Dave McGuire Videos has a lot of good videos of all the races at Star. So check that out. And thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.